Finding a balance between the need to handle personal information and protecting the privacy of individuals can be challenging. Privacy laws hold accountable those who steal or misuse data and are necessary to protect privacy rights. NYPA is a comprehensive consumer privacy law that aims to protect the privacy of the citizens of New York. The New York privacy law sets forth provisions for companies to manage personal data responsibly and lawfully. New York data protection laws will obligate companies to acquire consumers' consent, disclose their de-identification processes, and install controls and safeguards to protect personal information. Consumers will also have more control over their personal data. For example, the right to know details of the companies who hold their data. Central conditions of this data privacy regulation include the right to be notified of what data is being processed, by whom, and for what purpose, amongst other details. Before collecting or processing any personal data, the data subject must give their consent via an unambiguous and informed route. Companies will be obligated to provide easily accessible ways for data subjects to access details of their personal data being held and request corrections. Companies will be obligated to provide accessible routes for data subjects to request that companies dispose of their personal data and delete it in its entirety. This will also include ensuring that third parties dispose of it too under the same restrictions. The New York Personal Privacy Protection Law applies to entities conducting business in New York and possibly those handling the personal data of New York residents. The projected criteria for the application of NYPA are: if your yearly gross revenue is over $25 million, if you control the data of a minimum of 100,000 New Yorkers, if you control the data of a minimum of 500,000 people in general, with 10,000 that are New York residents, and if you derive 50% or more of your gross revenue from the selling of personal data. Government bodies who are processing or storing data for reasons other than sales are exempt from the NYPA, as is data maintained for employment purposes, protected health information, and data collected to research on human subjects. NYPA has been noted to surpass its contemporaries, like the California Consumer Privacy Act and Virginia's Consumer Data Protection Act, in its stringencies. It is more specific than the CCPA, which has received criticism for being impractical due to its breadth and very general terms. Yet it is less broad than the GDPR. The naming of third parties with whom a company does business is a requirement of NYPA in order to provide full transparency to consumers. The New York Privacy Act also refers to data fiduciary responsibilities. Yet, unlike most other famous privacy laws, the NYPA does not include a category of sensitive data that usually requires many of its own unique controls and handling laws. As with all privacy laws, the best place to start is by knowing where your company touches personal data and evaluating the flow of data from inception through the completion of your service or business. Take into account not only the networks and systems within your organization, but also the vendors with whom you do business. Ensure your vendors will not be the downfall of your compliance with vendor risk assessments. Create a privacy notice for your customers. Scope your organization to know where personal information is to be found and ensure all aspects are covered in the privacy notice. Consider using an automated risk and compliance management platform, such as Centraleyes, that will prepare your organization for compliance with all of the major privacy laws. To learn more, visit centraleyes.com.